Hello, friends. We are back for another week of Passion Break, and look who we have here, Lauren. So excited for this conversation. For those of you that are new here, or for those of you who are regulars, please tell us in the chats who you are, where you're from, and what you're excited to be in this conversation for. And also let us know if our sound is okay, because that's a thing that happens week over week. So to introduce our conversation, or before we introduce our conversation, for those of you who are very new to Passion Break, this is a time and space every week where for half an hour, we take a passion break to talk about and be in the passion conversation. Because if we're not in the passion conversation, then what are we actually doing? We can't do anything about our passion if we're not listening in and talking about. So before we kick off, a little bit of an introduction here. My name is Kira. I'm the founder of the Passion Center, co-host of Passion Break, where for the past 5 years, I've been studying passion because I'm really passionate about passion and talking about all the inner juices from our emotional experiences. I'm a very, very big fan of emotional sophistication and understanding the emotional language. And with me, we've got Tracy. Why don't you come on and introduce yourself, and then we'll get to Lauren.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Passion Break. I'm Tracy Borson. For those of you who don't know me, I am a personal branding coach and purveyor. I don't know. I just wanted to say purveyor. I don't know what I'm a purveyor of. I don't know where that was going. It just sounded like it needed to come out. I'm sure I'm a purveyor of something. Now, I don't know. I got this it's not even the 1900s, like 1800 gold miner vibe coming into this conversation today. So let's all be purveyors of our own passion coming out of this conversation. See what I did there? I brought it back. Let's learn more about Lauren. What's up, Lauren?
I like how you came full circle. Very, very well done.
Usually, if I have enough time to talk, I can make that
happen. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Lefkowitz. I am an executive leadership coach and a partner to the Passion Center and an occasional guest on this little show. And I'm so grateful to be here and be in conversation with both of you. If you don't know me, my tagline is fine as a trap, and fine is the thing that we all settle for because we think it's all we can have, and we self-soothe by saying, it's fine, I'm fine. And as Kira and I have discussed many times, fine is the opposite of passion. And so we were well matched from the start in partnering and getting to know each other. And I see in the comments, Jennifer Katz, who is somebody I have known since middle school, just accepted a job. Yay! Big passion. Amazing. So congrats, Jen.
Yay. All right. So now we're going to step right into the conversation. If you had a chance to read through the post, the conversation today is all about why, when we stay in things we're good at, we could be limiting ourselves from experiencing passion. And this came about because when I first started the passion, or getting curious about my passion and understanding what it is and all of the textures around the concept or the emotional state, there were a lot of different naysayers on the market that would say, don't follow your passion, do this, or don't follow your passion, do this. And one of the constant things I was hearing was don't follow your passion, follow what you're good at. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, it used to really irk me because I came from this corporate world where I was growing for 20 years and I saw so many people great at what they were doing, but hated their life. So I just thought it was a really misinformed messaging to be spreading around, and sometimes a little irresponsible, even if the intention behind it was good. So I really, really got into this idea of like, well, what does make people thrive in their working environment? I mean, sure, we can be passionate if we're good at things. That can be a thing. But from what I've learned, passion isn't only about that. It's about 15 things, and it's about taking that holistic approach and really understanding how we experience our feelings through what we do for work. So to kick it off, I'm going to throw this question over to Lauren, actually, because we were having this conversation previously. What were the things that you used to do in your journey that you were like, yes, I'm good at this, and not really wanting to even go back there anymore?
So like 96% of what I was doing was stuff that eventually I was, the path for me was, oh, I'm good at this and I like it. And then it was like a compulsion to keep being good at it and keep being better at it and keep on growing in it until I didn't like it anymore. And so then I would try to sneak in the little things that I liked. And my career history was in human resources. And for a long time, I loved employee relations. And also, it was emotionally draining because I cared so much about the people in the company and finding the balance that it burned me out. And so then I would try to find another angle that I would like better. And eventually, I just became the interim vice president of whatever you need because I just wanted to be contributing and impactful. And I was at the end of my corporate career, I was searching for what I could love. So I was the interim vice president of marketing, the interim vice president of finance, you name it. I tried it and I was good or good enough at all of it.
Yes.
And I wasn't finding any joy except for when I could squeeze coaching in. So I had these like internal side deals with employees where some of them I would talk to every 2 weeks. Some of them I would talk to on an ad hoc basis. They would say like, hey, can I catch you today? I wanted to run some things by you. And I had all of these informal coaching relationships that even though I didn't actually have time for, I squeezed in because it was the only piece I felt passionate about.
What I find very fascinating about this too is on our passion journey, when we're doing it outside in, which is our traditional model, let's actually try all the things until we find the thing we like, and then we'll go in that direction. But what ends up happening is it becomes like we're this blindfolded person with a whole bunch of darts in our hand and a whole bunch of different targets. We're just throwing things everywhere, hoping that we hit a bullseye. And on that journey, we'll discover more things we don't like than we do like, but it doesn't mean that we're not building skill sets along the way. We can be effective. There's so many other drivers outside of passion where we do actually get some level of fulfillment in, like the fulfillment of contribution. That's a real thing. We want to contribute, we want to be valuable. And so we learn things in order to be valuable. But that driver is still, it sits below the driver of those optimal states like passion, purpose, fulfillment, and all of those types of things. Tracy, what are your thoughts as you're hearing us hammer this out? And also, before I move on, by the way, guys, I can actually only see Lauren's feed on this stream. I can't see any. I'm so blind to who's commenting or.
So, quick solution: if you're on my feed or you're on Kira's feed, go to Lauren's feed. And then we'll be able to see your comments.
Perfect.
Maybe just only people I know came to see us today.
It's possible, but Jurgen was giving me a hard time earlier about not having the stuff for the VIP room ready. So,
yes. Oh, there you go. Well, I saw Carol Jean. I opened my phone. I saw Carol. I saw Darren. I saw Ray, Hal. All of you guys, just a quick shout out. Thanks for being here. I'm sorry we're blind to what you're saying, but please speak amongst yourselves. And we will answer questions.
Lovely conversation with each other. That's the point of Passion Break, though, in its essence, is for people to make time for passion. And if you're having a conversation amongst yourselves, wherever you are, awesome.
Yeah.
Or head over to Lauren, add her if you haven't already, because the girl's a badass and spits out so much juicy content. So you should be following her anyway.
Right back to both of you too. If you're only connected to one of us, connect to all of us.
So we're awesome.
Tracy, back to you.
Okay. Something that I was actually thinking about was some of the stories that I was told in my corporate life about things I wasn't good at. So like there were a lot of things that I was good at, and like I built on those, and there's some good things that come out of that. And one of the things I talk about a lot is the difference between a zone of excellence, which is things you're good at, and a zone of genius, which is the things only you are good at. So we can go there if we want to, but something that just is like really coming up for me is this concept of like being sold what we should be good at, and then feeling like we're less than because we're not good at it, without exploring why we're not good at it. So there's a like really specific example that comes to mind, actually two specific examples that come to mind for me of stories of things I was not good at as an executive. One of them was negotiating, and one of them was hiring. And part of the story that I was sold was that in order to be a productive, a successful vice president, you needed to be good at these things. And so I went to lots of training. I had my boss like mentoring me on negotiation. And what I realize now is that the way I negotiate and the way I would hire are not the same ways that my boss wanted to do it. And therefore, I wasn't good at it in her version of what it looked like. And for a long time, I thought I was just bad at it, right? I'm just bad at hiring. I can never hire good, like quite honestly, I hired a lot of good people, but I did not hire a lot of people who stayed at the organization. Part of that is because they weren't a good fit and probably shouldn't have been hired in the first place, but I didn't get to decide that. I just had to manage them. And so there's just something that's coming up for me on that, is that there's like the things that we're good at that build our self-esteem. So we kind of move towards that because that feels good. And then there's things that we're not good at that hurt our self-esteem, even though maybe the reason we're not good at them is because of who we are and the things that we're passionate about.
Different.
Yeah.
I think you bring up a really, really strong point, and something that we should maybe pivot a little bit into, but I do want to get back into the exploration of the entrapment of things like money and what we're good at that feeds into the story of staying in a place that doesn't feed the experience of optimal working or optimal life based on your definition. And I think that's what you're talking about. You're saying there is so much diversity in the way that we work and in how we do certain things. But then there's also this additional layer of like, we know office politics. And there is this huge advantage with people in leadership positions who can sometimes, not all, but sometimes abuse a situation by saying you're not good at something so that you don't get promoted, so that you're not so much of a threat, and so that you don't have to get that raise that you've been promised for 3 years. So there's also these textural things that really create disempowering work environments where we're not seen in the way we truly are, and then we adopt that seeing into our narrative, which is so crippling to our psychologies, to the way that we see ourselves. And again, strong workers are empowered workers, so you're not doing anything great if that's the strategy that you're implementing. Lauren, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what really came up for me as you were talking here was the notion that we're told what we're good at, and Tracy, from you, the notion that we're told what we're not good at, and we believe so fiercely in what people tell us we're not good at. And so then we sort of, I think, cling to the things that we're told we are good at, that we see results coming from. And we help ourselves stay in the same place. I see so many people go after the same jobs over and over, not because they like them, but because that's the stuff they feel like they can do. And they'll say like, oh no, this has hiring in it, I'm not good at that, right? Because somebody told them that their style of hiring wasn't good enough. And so we talk ourselves out of our passions because we think there's something we're not going to be good enough at that maybe sits in that arena, or we think that's not a whole job. I thought that about coaching for a very long time. Like, that's not a whole job. Nobody actually does that.
Half a job. You get self-pay.
It's actually a whole business, it turns out. I know. Whole industry.
And you get full pay. It's actually
but I think, we push ourselves into safety zones. So we check the boxes of the things we're good at, and we think we're supposed to be passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have this incongruence in our lives of doing the things that feel rewarding because we're good at them, or they feel rewarding because of the draw of money, or the draw of a title or a level, or you get to manage this many people, you get to put this on your business card, whatever it is. Your parents will be proud, your spouse or partner will be proud. That kind of stuff all feeds into sticking with the things we're good at.
Yes.
And
people.
And then on the side, we're like, oh, I wish I could do this all the time, whatever this little thing is. And I took on coaching clients out externally for years because it's what fed me. Yes. And then I plugged along in my 80-hour-a-week job.
But good for you for doing that, even if you had that 80-hour-a-week job. Because what I find so often with people I work with people I speak with, with friends and family too, is that we're so consumed with the stress of what we're doing that we literally have no energy, or we think we have no energy for the things that feed us. It's like we're putting ourselves on permanent block to the medicine that is required to feed us. Mm-hmm. We're rejecting the medicine, even though it's the things on the side that supplements you enough to create that energy so that you can go out and do the thing or figure out what you're going to do with that thing. But there's complexities to our livelihoods, like you were just mentioning, Lauren. Everything feeds into the identity that we're assuming and the identity that we're building. And how people see us and how we see ourselves is very important, because that ties into that sense of belonging, that sense of feeling like someone understands you or you're understood, that sense of you're doing a good job, you're being a really cool human, get out there and do more of that because you look successful. But even if that's silently killing us on the inside, it's amazing how long we'll stay just for that alone.
Yeah.
Right? Just to see ourselves and be seen by others.
And we're getting comments about that too, at least in my feed. I don't know what your feed looks like. But about that, that we're taught that authority tells us what we're good at, mm-hmm. right? And tells us what we're not good at. So we're going to go after the things we're good at, and we're going to really try to avoid being involved in the things we're not good at, because we don't want to disappoint more people.
Mm-hmm. Or ourselves.
Mm-hmm. It's just making me think of the Selena Gomez song, Who Says? I don't know if you're familiar with it or if the audience is familiar with it, but it's just like, who says this? Who says you can't be the president? Who says you can't be that? Who says? And we put, to Lee's comment, right? We put so much value and emphasis on what other people think, and they think you're good at this, and so you should do that, right? But how many, I've seen this too in people who are dancers, people who are in athletics and in sports, who play a thing because they're good at it, and they have they lost the passion for it long ago. And now you're just like, well, now it's just kind of a thing.
It's infinity.
And Linda makes a good point too about grades in school. We need to do it. We'll do an episode at some point with Hal about education and all the broken stuff.
But even in some of the research that we've done with Passion Health, Hal actually has a question in the other chat. We're keeping track of multiple chats right now. So he asked, Kira and Tracy, how does psychological and financial safety tie into our overall passion health? Are there more than two factors when looking at our overall health? So thank you for the leading question, Hal. So passion health, as we have studied over the past 4 to 5 years now, is all about these 15 things, these 15 aspects of our life, both internally and externally, that helps drive that experience or that subjective experience of passion. And so we're talking a lot about our psychological safety. So people who see us in the best light versus people who call out the things we're not good at and help us to not feel like we're in the best of lights. And I'm not talking about constructive criticism here. I'm talking about destructive or projective criticism, which is very different. And then the other part of it is, people staying in positions because they can't reconcile the financial aspects with their ability to have better opportunities or options. And that really is that's inside of our current economic design. Certain jobs pay more because they demand more, but they take more as a consequence of that. So a lot of people who are in high profile careers or high achievers that have reached that certain pinnacle of success, it becomes really hard to leave that kind of lifestyle. And again, identity, attachment to I've gotten to a place where I'm really good at and it pays really well. How can I do all of that just so that I can do something I love more, even when it's killing them on the inside and literally killing them on the inside. So Passion Health does include 15 parameters. Financial safety is a component of that, but it's not the only component. So the idea here is how can we start to broaden our perspective and broaden our view on what are the things we can start doing today to help create more nourishing environments where we can feel more passion, and that's going to look different for everyone based on their situation. But like Lauren said, even though she was working 80 hours a week in a job that was not serving her passion, here she is finding space and time in this other zone so that she could start developing a skill set that was more in line with her passion. So what are some of these strategies, Tracy?
Well, just one of the things I wanted to add on this too is that there's still such a narrative from a leadership perspective to like let people do that. Why are we still letting people do that? We should just not be letting people work 80 hours a week, right? I had this boss very early on in my career, and he had this. So we were all like super junior, and we got 2 weeks of vacation a year. But if you used your 2 weeks of vacation together, so you took 2 weeks off at the same time, you earned an extra week of vacation. And I was like, well, then who wouldn't do that, right? Like that just makes sense. So guess what he did? He forced everybody to take 2 weeks of vacation, which is really the amount of time you need to get recovered, right? To take a break. And I didn't really understand the brilliance of it at the time, but that is like putting policies and systems in place that encourage your employees to do good human things that allow them to take care of themselves as a human. And some of these things include like we need to stop promoting managers, leaders, rewarding CEOs. I'm sure you've all seen, I think it's the Twitter executive that sleeps in her office, right? Like we're just like, that should be, she should be fired.
But the thing is we glorify that
right.
inside of the tech world. Tech world is all about, hey, how hard are you working? Oh, okay, let me see how I can show you how hard I'm working. And I know that because I was in those environments where literally you were there, like playing who gets to work longer. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock would come, and you're not leaving because there's a leader there working those hours that are setting the example for employees to stay in those hours. And then when you leave, the whole culture is like, oh, where's she going? She done her work? So it's not just 1 or 2 people that are creating these cultures. These are cultures that are very systemic, very embedded into the fabric of what it looks like to be a good worker. And that is the thing that I think we do need to challenge. And I think society is starting to, which is super promising. Meenakshi, I hope I'm saying your name right. I freaking love Sir Ken Robinson's work. So thanks for bringing that in. Yeah, like I do feel as though there's multiple layers of this conversation. If we want to truly create empowered, optimized cultures, we do need to look and re-examine how we've been thinking about work and the relationship that we're having with work. And is it really true that you work more when you work longer?
I mean, not for me.
There's a
Usually.
lot of studies that say no.
I think there's like, again, it's an individual thing. There's like, to some degree, yes, right? There were some times where I would work late because I had work I had to do. I had a project, or I had a presentation, or I had something that I needed to do work for. But there were a lot of times where I was like, especially earlier on in my career, where I was like, well, I'm being paid to sit here for 8 hours a day, so I will sit here for 8 hours a day, but I will only work for 2 hours of that because it only takes me 2 hours to do the amount of work that I have, right? And so I think there's I think we have to talk about it. We need to talk about it in order to create spaces for people that work for the people without the assumption that there's one standard 8-hour day or 1 hour lunch or beer Fridays that makes everybody feel like they have space and they are seen as part of the team. Yeah, I just think that there's more to explore. And one of the things I wanted to say, because the topic is good today, so it's not surprising that good has come up, but like, I'm thinking about the difference between good energy and passionate energy. I'm thinking about the difference between a good worker and an innovative worker, or a creative worker, or a passionate worker, right? And right now we base a lot of stuff on good. And good just, I don't know, Lauren, it feels like fine to me.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was gonna say that. Like, we look at good in our work performance, and then we also look at good or fine in our, like, I have it good, so why should I sort of rock the boat? And Linda said golden handcuffs, which is like such a common and valid term to use, right? Because there are people who get to a certain level and they do have these golden handcuffs, and if they leave whatever big job that they've got, they're going to lose a whole bunch of stuff. Most of the clients that I've worked with who have thought they had golden handcuffs still got a better job with bigger money. My fear in leaving my employment life and starting my own was I need benefits from an employer, which I don't. And in Canada, you don't have this issue, but in the US, we think we need a group benefits plan. Now I'm on the US exchange and I'm okay. But we create reasons, and they're not invalid reasons. It was very scary for me to leave my employer. And then when I had an actual issue getting onto the exchange and I thought I was not going to be insured, it was awful. And so valid reasons, because we hear these horror stories of somebody who left a job and they could never make the same money again, of somebody who left a job and they couldn't get their benefits in order, or they lost their title and they kept getting lower level jobs. And so you internalize those horror stories, and then you think, well, it's good here. What I found is good.
Yeah, well, it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't, which is so common. And the point that's actually really loud and clear and coming in through my channel is a lot of big, mature organizations create cultures of mediocrity because mediocre is safe. Passionate energy is disruptive energy. Let's not mistake that. It is constantly pushing the dial. It is constantly trying to make things better. And it's constantly pushing for change in a direction. Good energy is, let's just make sure everything works and let's maintain this because what we've got is working. Let's not challenge it. And I know why that's a value and that's important to be put into structures that exist, especially when you don't and you can't predict for disruptive energy. It is very risky. So you can't, it's almost like there is a mindset that needs to be shifted that helps us to become better at understanding positive change and being able to cope and manage it without feeling like everything's going to break and we're all going to die. Because if we continue to feel that way, then we're never going to allow a passionate culture, no matter how much the research says that that's the better option, no matter how much the research says that passion leads to higher attendance, higher performance, higher achievements, more innovation. Like these are all real, tangible things. But we're not going to go there if it compromises what we have. So we've got to settle that argument, I think, first before we could move into how to incorporate more optimal environments.
Like on the other side of all this fear is possibility, right? And we have a hard time seeing that because we're very like all encompassed in the fear, but so are companies, right? Yes. So there's this big fear in companies. If we let our employees be passionate, they won't be passionate about this.
Right.
We'll lose them. So let's keep it mundane.
Right. That's exactly what it is. And I've had countless conversations with CEOs where that is their number one concern every time we bring passion into the conversation. What if we find out that they're passionate not about this and they leave? Well, let me actually say it to you like this. If they're passionate about something else, they're going to figure that out and they're going to move eventually anyway. But the difference is they're probably not going to tell you. And at some point, you don't know at what point, maybe it's 2 days from now, maybe it's 3 months from now, maybe it's a year from now, they're going to, at a very inconvenient time, say, hey, here's my 2 weeks. And you're going to have to shuffle around and figure out how to replace them with someone else. So it's a lot easier to open the conversation where you have line of sight into how to support this so that a better transaction can happen if that's the case. But what I found is more often than not, people can be passionate about the work that they're currently doing if they're able to identify and understand how to tweak particular things that are more aligned to how they are. If you don't understand that, then you actually don't have line of sight into the opportunity for that either. So, you know, this is a bigger conversation. We're now at 32 minutes. So we are going to have to close this one out and jump into the Passion Lab, where we are going to be including your experiences into the conversation. And this one's a juicy one. So I can't wait to hear what you guys all have to say about this. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Passion Lab, send us a message, send Lauren a message, send Tracy a message, send me a message. We'll send you a link so that you can be a part of this conversation. Guys, thank you so much for lighting up the chats. I've been so distracted because I'm like, there's a conversation here. There's a conversation here. And I'm so sorry that we couldn't get to the ones that we weren't able to see today, but leave it with us. We will hop back in and answer any questions you may have at a future time. Tracy.
Or come join us in the lab. You can also come join us in the lab. We can answer your questions now.
If you DM us right now, we'll send you the link for tonight's.
We will.
Perfect. So we're jumping on over. See the rest of you next week for another Passion Break lively conversation. Until then, wishing you an amazing, passionate rest of your week. And for those folks joining us in the lab, we'll see you then. Bye for now.